Hello dear students, welcome to GST amendments class. These amendments are applicable for June 2020 attempt and the amendments covered here are until 31st of October 2019. Right? So before we start the lecture, I request you to download this PDF from the description box below. So this is a very short version of the amendments. So this is a concise version. So if you have the copy with you, you can make simultaneous notes along with me, or even a soft copy should do well, right? So you keep these notes along with you when you are doing the lecture with me, and write down every significant point, whatever I tell you to write down, right? So that we will have a good note of the lecture, right? First thing, first amendment, what is it? RCM in case of services. So we know what is RCM. You tell me what is RCM. RCM means the recipient of service or the recipient of goods will pay tax to the government. What is FCM? The registered person will collect tax. The registered person will collect tax and remit it to the government, right? But what will happen in the case of RCM? The recipient, even though I purchase the goods or even though I purchase the services, I am going to pay tax as opposed to the supplier, right? So here there are two amendments. That is, first one is change in existing entry. Whatever entry was already there, they have modified that entry a little, and second is they've added two new RCM cases. All right, so we'll be looking one by one. Okay, so what is the change in the existing entry? Please come here. What is the change in existing entry? What was the existing entry? First it said supply of services by author, artist, music composer, photographer. For what is the description of service? What is the type of services he's giving? What is the type of service? Use or enjoyment of copyright for original literary, dramatic, musical or artistic works. So if they provide their services, this is the description of the service. To whom? To means here it means we are talking about the recipient of service, right? To music company, producer or the like. Then who is going to pay? So what does RCM mean? The recipient is going to pay tax. So the GST would be paid by the music company, producer or the same like. But now they are giving you the new entry is, see here, they are making it optional for the author to pay on RCM basis. What do I mean by optional? See, if I am an author, okay, I am an author and I am myself registered, okay, if I am myself registered, if I am a registered person, I may choose to pay tax on forward charge mechanism. That is, I may collect tax and pay tax to the government. I do not want the publisher to pay tax on behalf of me, right? So here the new entry given is the author, when he provides the services to the publisher, if he chooses to pay tax under forward charge mechanism, then the publisher need not pay. What is the condition that the author has to fulfill? He cannot withdraw that FCM or he cannot withdraw this option until 1 year from the date of exercising this option. Let's say on 1st January 2020, I exercise this option saying, no, let the publisher not pay. I will only collect tax and I will only pay. Okay, so I am not taking RCM in my category. So on 1st January, if I choose to pay tax under forward charge mechanism until 1 year, that is until 31st December 2020, until the end of 1 year, I have to continue paying under FCM. It cannot be like once I will pay tax, another time I will ask the publisher to pay tax on behalf of me. You cannot keep switching. Okay, so if you have exercised the option of FCM, then you only have to pay tax for the next 1 year. All right, fine. So this is the first amendment. But one more clarification, for artist, music composer and photographer, FCM will remain. Okay, FCM will remain. And let me tell you, for this author it is again optional. They are not imposing, they are optional. They are telling you can either choose RCM or you can choose FCM. All right, so this was the change in existing entry, right? Are we done with this? Okay, next, what are the two new entries that have been inserted? What are the two new entries that have been inserted under RCM? See, renting of motor vehicle. What do I mean by this? Any person other than body corporate. What is body corporate? Company, right? Let's say Infosys, Reliance, TCS, any company for that matter, paying 5% GST. Okay, if I am a person and I am not a company, okay, if I'm not a company, then I'll be an individual, HUF, partnership, anything, right? Anything other than a company. If I am a person other than a company and I am providing renting of motor vehicle, if I am providing these services to whom, who is the recipient? I have to give to a company. The recipient has to be a company. All right, so the recipient has to be a company, then RCM will be applicable here. Manjunath Enterprises example, Manjunath Enterprises is engaged in renting of motor vehicles. Okay, so this is providing service to Infosys. So who will pay GST? You tell me, who is the recipient of service? Yes, Infosys is the recipient of the service here. Alright, so that was the first new entry. Coming to the second one, lending of securities under securities lending scheme. Now if you are engaged, if the supplier, if the lender is engaged in lending of securities, which has to be registered under securities lending scheme 1997 of SEBI, so this has to be covered under this. Alright, then who will pay tax? That is on the lending fees, whatever the lender charges, right? The borrower, whoever borrows the security is going to pay GST, but not the lender. Alright, fine. So these were the two new entries that were inserted. Moving forward, so we finished RCM. Now coming to supply under GST, this is the second amendment. Okay, now we know under section 7.2, we know that these are the items which are neither considered as supply of goods nor supply of services, right? So under section 7.2, they are neither goods neither service. Alright, so the government has notified the following new activities. We know that the government has the power to notify certain activities from time to time, right? So what is the new notification that has been given? This has been added. Now what is the service given? Service, grant of alcoholic liquor license. See here, I am being very clear. Grant of alcoholic liquor license to for a consideration in the form of license fee or application fee by state government. Now let's say I am state government, let's say I am Karnataka state government. Alright, example. Now what I do, Radisson example, right? Radisson serves liquor. Now who is giving him the permission to serve liquor? Radisson has to obtain a license from the state government. So this license, Karnataka state government is providing license to Radisson, and in return, in consideration for this license, Radisson is going to pay a license fee. Alright, so this license fee, they're telling this is neither service, neither service, neither goods. Alright, fine, are we clear on that? Now let me tell you one more thing. See, the same thing I've written here. We are taking permission to serve liquor. Alright, we are not trading, we are not buying and selling liquor here. We are taking permission to serve liquor. Now we are very clear that GST does not cover alcoholic liquor, right? What is the definition of GST? Tell me. Supply of goods or service except alcoholic liquor for human consumption. So it is outside the scope of GST. Alcoholic liquor will not come under the scope of GST, but the permission to serve liquor, right? Can we be clear on this? Serve only. Alright, the permission to serve liquor, this license will be given by the state government. So whatever license fee the state government charges, it is not applicable for GST, right? Alright, so this is one. Next, moving forward, next. So this was for section 7.2. Next, coming to what is the change in composition scheme. So this is a new entry. What is the change? We know, we read that manufacturer of pan masala, tobacco and ice cream cannot opt for composition scheme, right? Are you there? So we have studied composition scheme. So we told 3 manufacturers, that is, if you're manufacturing pan masala, tobacco and ice cream, you cannot opt for composition scheme. So they've added another person to this. Who is that? So if you're a manufacturer of aerated waters like Coca-Cola or these carbonated waters, if you're a manufacturer of aerated waters, even then you cannot opt for composition scheme, right? So if you're a manufacturer of aerated waters, you cannot opt for composition scheme. Then also they have told the suppliers of aerated waters cannot opt for simplified scheme. Simplified scheme is where they were paying a concessional rate of 6%. So if at all I'm engaged in supply, forget manufacture, if I'm engaged in supply of these aerated also, I cannot opt for the 6% simplified scheme. Alright, so this is the new change. So what are we going to add here? We are going to add aerated waters here, right? As I'm telling you, these amendments are really very important for you. because this is the testing point for the institute. They will see how updated you are and whether you've really followed up with the amendments. Okay, so take these seriously, and this is a concise notes that I made, a very short form where you can take less time and cover up study. So I really want you to keep this notes for you. This is like a handmade notes, right? Instead of you making it, I have made it for you, right? All right, so this is the change in composition scheme. Now what is another change in composition scheme? This is change number 2. All right, what is another other change? First they told, do you remember supply of service other than restaurant or catering service cannot opt for composition scheme? Means what? Let's say I am giving CA services, okay, or I am giving advocate services. Can I opt for composition scheme? No, I cannot. But if I am engaged in restaurant or catering service, right? If I am engaged in restaurant or catering service, yes, I can opt for composition scheme. So the only service that was eligible to opt for composition scheme was restaurant and catering. Now they're telling you what is a new addition. They're telling you along with restaurant and catering, there is somebody else who can also opt for composition scheme. Who is this? New addition is supplier of exempt services. See here, supplier of exempt services extending deposits, loans or advances. Now let's say I am a person and I'm a money lender and I am extending a loan to you, or I'm extending any deposits or anything, okay, deposit, loans or advances. I'm giving you a loan of 1 lakh rupees, and in consideration of that you are paying me interest or discount, whatever the case may be. So this service is exempt. All right, so this service is exempt. First, you know that it is exempt. Now they're telling you, if I'm engaged in such type of service, then I can be able to opt for composition scheme. So simple things. First, restaurant, if I'm engaged in restaurant services, yes, I can opt for a composition scheme. If I'm engaged in money lending services, that is for an interest or discount, yes, I can opt for composition scheme. If I'm engaged in restaurant plus money lending, yes, I can opt for composition scheme. Now tell me, if I'm engaged in restaurant or money lending, any one of these, plus if I'm engaged in any other taxable service or any other exempt service, can I opt for composition scheme? No, I cannot opt for composition scheme. So you either have only two options, restaurant and money lending services, or both. You cannot engage in any other service if you are opting for composition scheme. The day you opt for any other service, then you will have to withdraw from this scheme. So this is the change, right? So money lending services, please add here and make a note. This is very important for you. All right, now moving forward. Now also they're telling you, all right, so I think the pages got switched, I'm so sorry. See here, neither a supply of goods nor supply of service. We spoke about alcohol, right? So we spoke about alcohol granting license, right? We spoke about alcohol. The state government is going to grant license to serve alcohol. So that was first one, that is supply of neither a good, neither a service. So there's another one. Which the government has notified, which they're telling you it's neither a service, neither a good. So say you all must have seen, right? Maybe in charitable institutions, in schools, in hospitals, in NGOs, hostels or anything, what they would have written, let's say I donate a hall, and I may write in the memory of my loving husband, or you must have seen, right? So if I donate benches to school, maybe they might write in the memory or of my grandfather, or I may write anything like that, right? So display of name, placing of nameplates of donor, correct? Placing of nameplates of donor in the premises of charitable organizations receiving donation from individual donors. So they're telling you this is not a supply of service, no, neither a supply of goods if three conditions are satisfied. Now let's say I donated some benches, okay, and I wrote contribution by Raksha Kutnikar, or I might write in the memory of my loving grandfather, okay, I might write anything like that. Or maybe I donated one hall, okay, I donated a function hall to a school, okay, maybe I helped in the construction of that. So on the face of the wall, like on the entrance, on the door, they might write contributed by so and so, right? So they're telling you, if such a contribution has a character of a gift, let's say I am giving a gift to somebody, right? Or it is a sign of gratitude, and it has a philanthropic purpose. If I have a philanthropic purpose, and if it is given to a charitable organization, then only it will not be considered as goods nor service. Okay, so see here, for example, donated by Gangubai in the loving memory of her husband Keshavnath. Maybe she donated um, some rooms to the hospital. Okay, so on the door of every room they might write donated by Gangubai in the loving memory of her husband Kedarnath. So when you write such a thing, what intentions does Gangubai have? Is she marketing? No. Is she engaged in some sort of publicity? No, nothing, right? So it is just in the character of a gift, and in the character of gratitude, and it is given to a charitable organization for a good purpose, no intentions behind. So when such a thing is there, so this is not a service, and this will not be considered for GST. So this is not a publicity in any form, so this will not be considered for GST. All right, so this is another one. So what is the first one is granting license. Okay, one is granting license, and one is the nameplate for charitable organization. So these are the two items under section 7.2, right? These are the two items for section 7.2. So when I'm uploading this document, I'll swap the pages and bring it in order, don't worry. All right, now moving forward, very important amendment. So this has changed the way GST is functioning right now. So this amendment has severe practical implications, and while dealing with GST, we understand, while filing returns every month, we understand what an impact this has got on the suppliers and the recipients of goods or service today. Okay, so as you do not have experience in filing returns, so I'll just lay down a scenario for you on how filing a return works and what exactly are they talking about this amendment. So giving you a brief, they're telling you restriction on availment of ITC in respect of invoice or debit notes. They're telling you from now you cannot take full credit. Means what? Full ITC you cannot take if certain conditions are not satisfied. Okay, I'll come to that. Now let's say XYZ is a supplier of goods, means he is engaged in selling of goods. Okay, for the month of January, all right, for the month of January he has 3 sales. Okay, let's keep it very short and easy to understand. He has 3 sales. He sold goods to 3 parties, A, B and C. Invoice number 1, 2 and 3. All right, so the taxable value is 1,50,000 and 2 lakhs. Here let's assume all the goods what he's selling is at 12% GST. So this is the GST rate and this is the invoice value. So you understand, so these are all the particulars of the invoice, right? So taxable value, GST rate, amount, date, party name, place, everything will be mentioned in the invoice, right? Now what is GSTR1 and GSTR3B? See, in GSTR1 what do I do? See, for January month I had 3 sales, right? So in GSTR1 for January month I had 3 sales, right? Before February 11th, before next month's 10th day, before the succeeding month's 10th day, now they've made the due date as 11th. Okay, so you can keep it as 10th only. So before the succeeding month's 10th day, I have to upload invoice wise details in GST portal. Means what? I will open GSTR1 return. I will open GSTR1 return before February 11th, and then I will upload. Okay, party A. Okay, he is a recipient, right? Party A, party B, party C, and how much he purchased, taxable value, GST amount, and then invoice value. Then I will also mention the invoice number. Okay, I will also mention the invoice number. And then what will I do? Okay, I'm sorry, I think you cannot see there, right? Okay, what will I do? I will file the return. Correct? Alright, simple. So whatever sales I've done for the entire month, see, we are talking only of sales. Okay, whatever sales we've done for the entire month, I will file it in GSTR1. Okay, before 10th or 11th of the next month. Fine. So now what happened? I told A, B and C purchase from XYZ. I am XYZ. Now let's suppose you are A Limited. Okay, you purchased certain commodities worth rupees 1 lakh, invoice value worth 1,12,000, right? How much GST did you pay? Let's say Mr. A, you are Mr. A and you paid GST worth of rupees 12,000. Okay, now whatever in GSTR1 whatever in GSTR1 I, that is XYZ Limited, whatever I have uploaded, this will reflect, means what? This will be shown where? This will be shown in GSTR2A, right? So this will be shown in GSTR2A. So when I open, that is Mr. A, that is I am the recipient, no? If I open GSTR2A, it will show me XYZ Limited has uploaded invoice number 1, 1 lakh rupees, 6,000, 6,000, 1 lakh 12,000, right? So what has happened? The supplier of service has uploaded the invoice in my name, saying yes, that is I am the supplier, right? XYZ has uploaded the invoice in A Limited's name, saying yes, the recipient of service is A Limited and they have purchased from XYZ Limited. Now, if they have done so, whatever 12,000 rupees, you have to claim ITC, right? You have to claim input tax credit on your purchase. You can 100% claim. Okay, you can 100% claim that full 12,000 is yours. But what if we know that the taxpayers are not compliant? We know that they don't file the GST returns on time. So what if XYZ does not file GSTR1? Then can you being A Limited, you purchase something from me, right? Can you take full 12,000 credit? No. So the restriction given here is, I'll tell you. Yes, can we come here? See, as I told you, within February 11th you file GSTR1 and within February 20th, so the GSTR 3B dates are changed in staggered manner for different states. So just for simplified purpose, let us take 20th February, right? So GSTR 3B, what you do, you compute the sales and then whatever tax you have paid, that is your ITC, and then you pay output tax. So you know how this works, right? So you pay output tax, sale output tax, that is whatever is the net tax, output tax minus ITC, output tax minus ITC, you pay net tax to the government. Now here, let's say this I am A Limited, right? Here I had paid 12,000 rupees. So if XYZ Limited has uploaded in GSTR1, I can claim full 12,000 rupees. But come to the important aspect. What if XYZ has not uploaded? Then what to do? If he has not uploaded invoice number 1, let's say Mr. XYZ Limited or whoever that is, he is non-compliant, he is not uploaded, then obviously it will not reflect in my 2A. So can I claim full 100%? No, I cannot claim. Then what is the solution for this? If the credit available uploaded invoices is 1 lakh rupees, now what happens? How much is the actual ITC? Now let's say I am A Limited. Did I just purchase only from XYZ? No. Did I purchase only from XYZ? No. I purchased from another 5 other parties, and all these, the total ITC that I have paid is 1 lakh rupees. Okay, example. Okay, I purchased from 5 parties and the other 4 parties have uploaded in my name. Means what? I am eligible for 100% credit. So how much is it? For example, for simplification purpose, 1 lakh rupees is available. Okay, I can claim 1 lakh rupees. But this Mr. Fellow, this non-compliant XYZ, he did not upload. So 12,000 rupees I am unable to claim here. So how much can I actually claim here? See here. Whatever is available, that is 1 lakh rupees is the available. See here, credit available. 1 lakh rupees is the available ITC, right? 1 lakh. Of that 20%. Okay. See, until 31st of October, they have given us 20% only. It later got changed to 10%. So let's keep it at 20% for now. Alright. So 20% of 1 lakh rupees, that is 20,000. Or what is the actual ITC that I have to claim from XYZ invoice? That is from invoice number 1. How much ITC am I eligible? See here. How much ITC am I eligible? I am eligible for 12,000 rupees ITC. Right. So I am eligible only for 12,000. So why will I claim 20,000, right? So 12,000 rupees I can claim full ITC. Alright. So this is example number 1. Don't worry, we'll discuss another example. Don't worry at all. Okay. See here. Now let's say another example. Let's say 10 invoices. That is, I purchase from 10 people. Okay. That is Aksha. I purchase from 10 people. Okay. Now for every invoice, for simplified purpose, I'm telling you, every invoice I am supposed to claim ITC of 1 lakh rupees each. For every invoice I have to claim ITC of rupees 1 lakh each. So for 10 invoice, how much should I claim? I am eligible for 10 lakh rupees. Now what happened? 8 suppliers uploaded GSTR1 and they filed it. That is, how much am I eligible now? 8 into 1 lakh rupees each. 8 lakh rupees I can claim full ITC. 8 lakh rupees into 100% I can claim, right? Now these two lazy people, what they did not file GSTR1, they did not upload the invoice saying that Raksha has purchased so and so items for so much money, and this is the total invoice value with this invoice number. No, they did not do it. Okay, so these two parties did not do it. So what will I do? I will keep calling them and pestering them. See, you didn't upload it, you didn't upload it, right? So I will, so the main idea behind bringing such a implementation is that the recipient will force the suppliers to file the returns, but honestly this is going to harm the recipient. See, I purchased from you, you did not upload. What is my problem? What is my mistake here? I am unable to claim ITC because of your fault. So this has been this has been a major discomfort in GST implementation right now, but it's okay. So the lawmakers are the lawmakers, right? So whatever they say is the final verdict. So fine. So two people did not upload. So what happened? Okay, fine. Two people did not upload, right? So if two people did not upload, 2 lakh rupees, 2 lakh rupees, I lost credit. But of this 2 lakh rupees, what happened? 8 lakh rupees is the eligible credit, right? 8 lakh rupees is the eligible credit. Of this 8 lakhs, I can claim 20%. So how much am I eligible? See here, this 8 lakhs we're talking, right? This 8 lakhs for that ITC which has been uploaded by the suppliers, right? So this 8 lakhs has been uploaded by the suppliers. So on this 8 lakhs, 20% full I can claim. Alright, so 20% of 8 lakhs is 1,60,000. Or how much am I eligible? How much am I eligible? I am eligible for 2 lakh rupees credit here, or 2 lakhs, whichever is lower. So whichever is lower means what? I can claim only 1,60,000 as opposed to 2 lakh rupees now. Alright, so where is it? 2 lakhs, so 3,60,000 is the total ITC that I can claim for February months, in the February month, that is for January month's return. Alright, are we there? So what is the solution? What is the summary of this? What is the new rule? Where the supplier has not uploaded invoice-wise details in the name of the recipient. Simple. I purchased from you, you did not upload in my name. What can I do? But no, the government is telling us, because you didn't upload, telling that you sold certain goods to me, or goods or services to me, I cannot take credit. So I cannot take credit. So how much is the maximum I can take credit? Whatever credit is eligible for all those whoever have uploaded GST, that credit I take into 20%, or the actual credit whatever you are giving me, whichever is lower I can claim that. Alright, so just go through this again, just 1 or 2 times. You just go through this, you'll definitely be able to get this if you have not understood until here. Alright, so fine. So this was a major amendment in GST. Just have a look through, and I'm sure you'll definitely do well here, right? Fine. So can we move forward? Yes, from here it is easy, nothing complicated. What are the exemptions that they've added or modified? Can we see? Alright, so first one is legal service or government service. Before they would tell whatever legal service or government service they would give to business entity which are falling below threshold limit. See, below threshold limit means what? If my turnover, for the aggregate turnover for the previous financial year, is below 20 lakhs, why will I register under GST, right? I will not register under GST. Now, if 20 lakhs, or if I am a special category state, for special category states, you know that the threshold limit is 10 lakhs, right? So I do not need to register under GST. No, something new. See, for goods I told, if I am a supplier of goods only, okay, then if my threshold is below 40 lakhs, then I need not register. So they brought in new thresholds. So they're telling you whatever new thresholds they brought in, that will be applicable. So if any legal service or any government service is being provided, and I am a supplier of goods only, and I fall below 40 lakhs turnover, then that service will be exempt from GST. Alright, so these two were already there. They're telling you they brought in some new threshold limits. Okay, so even for those threshold limits, this exemption will still be applicable. Okay, fine. Now coming to sports section. So FIFA Under 17 Women's World Cup 2020 will be hosted by India. Okay, will be to be hosted in India. So we don't know how true it is, because we are having a pandemic right now, and we don't know whether it will really be hosted. But still, anyway, so here they're telling you, in relation to this FIFA Under 17 Women's World Cup, any right to admission of events, right to admission to events, this also is exempt. Okay, this service is also exempt. One more, and services by and to FIFA. So any services that is given by FIFA or to FIFA, directly or indirectly, and this has to be recognized by whom? Certified by Director of Sports, Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports. If this person has certified saying it is a service given to FIFA, then even this service will be exempt. Alright, so these were the new exemptions. Coming to food and agriculture, they're telling you, we know supply of cereals, pulses, all this is exempt. Now they're telling you, even storage and warehousing of these cereals, pulses, fruits, nuts, vegetables, and all these. Just go through this: jaggery, raw vegetables, cotton, jute, flax, tobacco, beet leaves, all this. Even storage and warehousing is, again, even this storage and warehousing is also exempt under GST. Alright, so even this storage and warehousing is also exempt under GST. Now coming to goods transport sector. What is goods transport sector? They're telling you what was existing before: transport of goods by aircraft or vessel. If you are transporting any sort of goods by aircraft or vessel from customs station of clearance in India to a port outside India, to a place outside India, it was exempt until 30th September 2019. Before, it was until 30th September 2019 before, but now they have extended it to one more year, that is until 30th September 2020. Alright, now come to education courses. This maritime course, which is conducted by Maritime Training Institutes of India, whatever the fees they collect for this maritime course, even that is exempt under GST. Okay, this is a notified course which is exempt under GST. Now hotel, inn or guest house. Now let's say, now any service of hotel, inn or guest house for purpose of residential or lodging, and if the rent per day, we are not talking of per month, be careful, rent per day is equal to rupees 1000 or less than 1000, then it is exempt. Okay, if it is equal or less than 1000, it is exempt. But if it is above rupees 1000, that is, if it is even rupees 1001 rupees also, it will be taxable. This was there even before, but this equal to, this was not there. They are told only if it is less than 1000 rupees it was exempt, but now they have told even if it's equal to 1000 rupees it is exempt. Alright, now GST on late payment of EMI. Now see here, let's say you purchase refrigerator under EMI scheme, right? Every monthly installment, you know that. So what happened? You told that within 3 months you'll pay. Alright, within 3 months you're supposed to make payments. Okay, but what happened? You paid late, you defaulted in payment on time. So what happened? Let's say 1000 rupees. Okay, don't take it as refrigerator, I know 1000 rupees is lame, but yeah, for example, okay, 1000 rupees. So 1000 rupees was your EMI amount, and because you paid late, you're paying 50 rupees extra. So the total value is 1050 rupees. On this, the GST will be charged. Even this late fee, whatever late fee, penalty, interest accrues, no? So GST will be charged. Why? Because this refrigerator is a taxable item. Now, one more important thing I'm telling you. Now let's say if I lent some money to you, we discussed that lending of deposits, loans for interest, lending of deposits or loans, deposits or loans in consideration, lending of deposits or loans in consideration for interest or discount. Now let's say I lent 1 lakh rupees to you and you are paying me 12% interest. Then this is exempt under GST, right? We saw that this is exempt under GST. Now here if I default in payment, what will happen? If I charge any extra late fee from you, will it be taxable under GST? This whole service itself is exempt. So why will you charge the interest portion to be taxable, right? Fine, are you getting it? See here, the refrigerator, here it is a taxable item. This refrigerator is a taxable item, but this service is already an exempt service. Okay, this service is already an exempt service. Okay, so here If at all I was supposed to pay, you were supposed to pay me 1 lakh rupees plus 12,000 interest. Because you paid 1 month late, what I'm telling you, you pay me another 1,000 rupees extra, right? So will this be charged to GST? No. Okay, will this be charged to GST? No. But if you're paying EMI on taxable goods, then it will be charged to GST. Alright, we're there? Okay. Now, another procedural implication is, now whenever I register under GST, I have to give my bank account details also. Okay, so by when should I give this bank account details? Now let's say I register, my registration comes on 1st January 2020. So within 45 days of my registration or date of furnishing return. What is the return? Return simply means the monthly return that you're supposed to pay, that is monthly return that you're supposed to file, that is your 3B return. Okay, so what is the due date for furnishing 3B return? If it is January month's return, I have to furnish 3B return within 20th of February 2020, right? 20th of the succeeding month. Simple. So whichever is earlier. So if I take 1st January plus 45 days, if I take 1st January plus 45 days, I got 13th Feb. You can calculate too, just taking on an approximate. So I got 13th Feb, right? So 13th Feb or 20th February. 20th February is the due date of furnishing of return, right? Whichever is earlier. So which is the earliest one? 13th February. So by 13th February, I have to furnish my bank account details. Simple. Okay. Again, another procedural, they're making a clarification. One more clarification they've given is, now if at all I apply for cancellation of my registration, then my registration will be suspended for some time. Okay, so during this suspension, they tell you not to make any taxable supply. So they're telling you, what do I mean by not making a taxable supply? It means that I should not issue a tax invoice and I should not collect tax, or I should not charge tax on the supplies that I make. Okay, next, another one. You know what is a consolidated invoice? What is consolidated tax invoice? Yes, we will learn about this, right? Yes, what is consolidated tax invoice? If the value of the goods or service is rupees 200 or below rupees 200, right? Condition 1. Then condition 2, if the recipient is unregistered. Condition 2, and see here, can we see and the recipient does not require a tax invoice. So if all these three are there, you can issue a consolidated invoice at the end of the day, right? Whatever these small sales, you can gather it, consolidate it, and raise one invoice. Now they're telling you multiplex screens cannot do that. Multiplex screens cannot do that. They will have to issue an electronic ticket, and this ticket itself will act as a deemed tax invoice. So with whatever details they're asking you to fill in the electronic ticket, so this will automatically be considered as a deemed tax invoice. Okay, fine. Now the last thing, we're at the end now. Filing of annual return. So what is annual return? For the whole year, right? For the whole year, whatever returns that you filed, you will file an annual return, right? You will file an annual return. What is it? You file it in GSTR 9. So they're telling you they have made it optional. See, optional means what? You may want to file it, you may not want to file it. For small taxpayers whose aggregate turnover is less than, in the preceding financial year, is less than 2 crores. If I am a taxpayer and if my aggregate turnover is less than 2 crores, then I have an option whether to file GSTR 9 or not to file. If I don't file, what will happen? It will auto-populate figures and take the return on its own. Okay, the portal, that is the GST website, will take the figures on its own and consider it to be good. Alright, so here we are done with GST amendments. So I've tried to keep things very simple and short so that we work on what is really necessary, right? So I want you to keep this document with you, refer to this, and if you refer to this, you will be covering all the amendments. So this should be well enough, right? So I hope this was useful for you, and I really want you to study well and also pay good attention to these amendments. All right, so all the best for your exams. I'm sure you'll do well.